And I promised you, absolutely promised you, to take you through what is now, in retrospect, I mean, listening back on it, do things sound differently, yes or no? I have the Kyle Shanahan talking about Jimmy Garoppolo timeline for you. I want to take you all the way back to July 25th. Kyle Shanahan was on Tim Kawakami's podcast talking about Jimmy Garoppolo, even showing up to camp. And here's what Kyle Shanahan had to say.
I know we have our physicals tomorrow, so I'm not exactly sure how it'll play out. I haven't seen Jimmy since the season ended. And, I know he's gotten cleared by his doctor. He's got to go through some things and a throwing program to where he can ease back into it like all guys do after shoulder injury. But tomorrow is probably going to be the first time that I have gotten to see him. So I can't wait to catch up on stuff. He'll most likely do his physical and everything like that. And then we'll play it from there. We got a great relationship with Jimmy. I don't think this is bad in any way. Jimmy understands what happened here over the last couple of years. We understand, and this is the business part of the league. And whether it's tomorrow, whether it's a couple of weeks from now, whether it's right before week one, I think our team will be in a good spot, and I think Jimmy will be in a good spot, most likely somewhere else.
So there you go. I think we'll be in a good spot. He will most likely be in a good spot somewhere else. Well, somewhere else never, ever happened. Somewhere else was so almost guaranteed to happen that as Jimmy decided to show up in Santa Clara and work out, they basically approached Jimmy about, getting in these meetings and being a part of the team conversation. And here's what Kyle Shanahan had to say about Jimmy Garoppolo on July 27th, just 2 days after talking to Tim Kawakami on his podcast.
We're saying, go ahead, you don't have to be here. Anything he wants to be at, he can. But I think Jimmy, like I said all yesterday, Jimmy, John, and I talked for a while. We understand every part of this situation, and I think both sides know each side's doing as good as we can.
In other words, there is absolutely no doubt that going their own directions was the direction this whole thing was pointed in at that time. But times change. Kyle Shanahan, July 27th, once again. What about the possibility of Jimmy still being here week one?
I don't give an absolute anything. So, yeah, I could come up with the scenario, but I think I said earlier that would surprise me, and I still feel that way.
Surprise! Here we are.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I mean, when you think about it, this is more than anything else, it's the funniest story of the offseason in a pretty humorless sport.
I don't know if we have ever blown more hot air into a balloon only to realize that all the hot air that went into that balloon was worthless, and you can now just pop it with a pin because everyone, Shanahan himself, kind of handicapped this wrong early going. So we now go to August 5th. Kyle Shanahan talking about how much Garoppolo wanted to be involved in training camp, how much they wanted him involved in training camp, thinking again back on August 5th that this probably was a relationship that had gotten to its fork in the road.
Yes, I think you have to report, with the rules of the NFL today and stuff. You have to report. So we made it the best for both. If Jimmy wanted to be in every single meeting and wanted to do everything, for sure we would let him. I would guess that isn't what he would want totally. And when we asked him, that was accurate. He didn't totally want that. So he's just trying to get his body ready for hopefully the next situation he goes into.
Again, he's just here working out. He's still technically on the roster, but we are not grooming him to be a part of this season in any way. As a matter of fact, just 4 days later, on August 9th, asked if Jimmy had even been handed the iPad that has the playbook on it, Shanahan said.
Has he even been issued an iPad? Does he watch film? Does he have the playbook?
No. I'm sure he does at home. We haven't given new playbooks out this year yet. He's not in meetings, he's not doing all that stuff, so he's just doing what I said he's been doing. If he's on the depth charts, because you have to be.
In other words, he's mathematically still here, but conceptually, probably not anymore. That is August 9th. Now we go to August 22nd. We're 6 days ago. And you tell me if this isn't where you start hearing a little bit of a different tone, a little bit of a different, open to the possibility of Garoppolo remaining from Kyle Shanahan.
I communicate with Jimmy all the time. He looks the same as he always has. He always looks really good. So looks the exact same.
Again, he's throwing well, looks exactly the same. We can't help but notice he might be a decent insurance policy for us. Again, just 6 days ago.
Is he in any way a backup scenario if someone gets hurt? Could he be on this team?
I mean, I think any scenario is possible.
Okay, so now we have any scenario possible. Remember, all the scenarios throughout this offseason led to Jimmy showing up with the Niners as long as possible to get enough on tape to have somebody come get him. We need to wait for a quarterback to go down, but that always happens in preseason and football practice. So, we're just kind of biding our time. Well, again, August 23rd, 6 days ago, Kyle Shanahan.
I don't know what I'll do that day. Probably decide when it comes.
Asked about what are you going to do the day comes time to cut Jimmy. How are you planning on that day? Well, I got no plans. We'll see how it goes when that time comes. Things changed.
He does. The great lesson of this is you don't have to decide anything until it comes time for deciding. And they sort of just kept putting this off and putting this off and putting this off. And then this happened because he kept his options open. I mean, it's a look into the way not only how Kyle Shanahan works, but how his dad worked and how veteran coaches work. It's just, I don't have to make that decision today. I'll let you know when I do.
Somebody here on the 707 says, sounds like Shanahan got overridden about Jimmy Garoppolo, possibly by Jed York. The Super Bowl window is now, and I think this is a smart move by the 49ers. I don't think this is Jed's choice. This is Kyle's choice under the very simple formula that is, again, remove everybody's name from this conversation. Remove everything that you've ever known about Jimmy Garoppolo or hope to see in Trey Lance. Forget their cap hits. Forget who was drafted where. Forget who got traded for. Forget any future cap, forget any future picks that got spent on Trey Lance. Just forget it all and answer the simple question, yes or no. Do you want to break training camp with your 53 best players? I'm not hearing any no's. Jimmy is one of the 53 best players that the Niners have, whether he's been handed a playbook or not. And who has spent more time watching him throw in person, side of practice, individual workout than the Niners? They're watching too. So they must like what they've seen, and they really know, God forbid anything happen to Trey Lance, this guy's our best insurance policy. Full stop.
But I will consider the possibility that Jed York at one point, might have been this is what we're thinking of doing. And I'm sure Jed York made a point of saying, can you get the price down?
Maybe he did, but he also was saying, hey, we already paid for it. So if you want it, it's already bought.
Well, it's already bought, but you can get a rebate, which is what they ended up getting. So, I'm sure Jed York was in on the conceptual discussions, but not from a football standpoint, but from a financial one. Can we get the number down?
It would have gone from the single most expensive backup quarterback contract of all time to something that's still represented by that number and concept. Jimmy's going to be the most expensive backup quarterback in football this year. Again,
actually, no, he's not. I should correct you at this point.
Well, again, it depends on how much of the bonuses are triggered.
No. I don't. I'm not even counting those in.
Okay.
Darnold is still the most expensive backup.
What's Darnold making?
14.
All right. Well, Jimmy's got clauses here that could get him up to 16.
Okay, but he's got to play a bunch, which means he would become a starting quarterback. Yes. I'm just saying, for purposes of the future, he's the second most expensive backup in the league.
Here's what Jed York said 10 days ago.
I mean, I've said this before, you can't have enough good quarterbacks and good football players. And again, like, I'm not going to get into roster discussions and what John and Kyle want to do, but I will support them in sort of anything that they want to make this team as good as it can possibly be. I watched it with Joe and Steve, and I realized the salary cap is different today than having no salary cap. But I mean, we've said it before. We're happy to keep Jimmy. You know, we're happy to have him on the roster. And if that's the case, then that's the case.
Jed York on the TK show from the nickel dime. If you're Jimmy Garoppolo, why would you agree to this new deal instead of keeping the existing one? Because they might have given him the ultimatum. At this price point, we are going to cut you tomorrow. But if you're willing to restructure, we're going to keep you here. You're going to save an awful lot of face. You're not going to be out on the open market with still no one coming after you, which might be the beginning of the end of your career. But you stay here. You're a part of this organization still. And thinking down the road, being a part of the Niners in a year where they expect to do good things and you could still be a big part of that, it's not a bad idea.
They gave him a very simple choice. You can have $7 million and be on the roster, or you can have $7 million and not be on the roster. So, I mean, it's fairly elemental at that point. It just, do you want to be employed or unemployed? I mean, the $7 million without a job means you have to hustle up a job somewhere.
Right. Or suffer through the embarrassment that comes with, well, nobody's really interested. Not the Seahawks don't want him. Nobody wants. Somebody still wanted Jimmy Garoppolo, and that somebody was the 49ers. Lunatic Fringe in Lafayette. You're on 95.7 The Game, Lunatic. Once, twice, thrice, Lunatic. Off the fringe you go. Bobby in, oh, yes.
I'm sorry. The other thing is the $9 million in extra money that he could earn, that's what salves the deal. And the no trade clause salves the deal. And the no tap clause salves the deal. So in that way, Garoppolo is taking no pay cut and may have a chance, if things go well for him and poorly for the Niners, to get at least 2/3 of what his salary would have been.
Yeah, I think it's a win on both sides. It makes sense for all involved parties. Bobby in Oakland, real quick, Bobby, what do you got?
Hey, we're one big happy family again. Jimmy G is back, right? You know what? I'm looking at it like this. It's almost impossible for Trey not to struggle, and it's nothing against the young man. It's just the speed of the game, the offensive line, so yeah, with the troubles that we have in there. So I'm kind of seeing maybe in week 5, week 6, you see Jimmy in there. You got the teammates probably looking at Cal. Hey, we got Jimmy. I think he's going to be in there, and then you just let Trey, learn from him for the rest of the year.
Look, that's where
but
Bobby, you might be right. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong about something that hasn't happened yet. But that's where subversion actually walks into the picture for the first time. I don't think you're seeing Jimmy Garoppolo until Trey Lance is hurt or so thoroughly proved himself to be the wrong draft pick that it's just an unmitigated disaster. In which case, you got a pretty good backup plan for the unmitigated disaster, which hopefully we're not talking like that.